welcome to the third edition of the Upstream Downlow, and it's my great honor, Mr. Chairman. Today we have the Chairman of the House Energy Resources Committee in the great state of Texas, Chairman Drew Darby, joining us. Mr. Chairman, I'm honored by this, and I appreciate you doing it.
Well, thank you, Karr, and I very much appreciated your introduction.
What else in the interim are you paying attention to?
Well, we did some other things with regard to oil field theft. We created Senate bill created a task force, if you will, with Railroad Commission appointees and other appointees, which you're on. I guess you were at that meeting Monday at the Railroad Commission conference. I congratulate that effort. I'm anxious for you to get down and get some results and tell us what we need to do. That's another one of the examples of, and when we're making this sausage, I need you guys to tell us what kind of sausage we need to make. And we know the problem. We know it's of critical importance to oil and gas, our oil and gas partners and everybody related to the industry, that we have people that want to take a shortcut and steal and commit fraud. Hopefully that task force can help. I also created a prosecution unit with DPS investigation. A lot of these are large multinational corporations and cartels that transcend geographic boundaries and prosecutorial boundaries, and so we have the Border Prosecution unit that we already had, but this investigative arm through the DPS is going to be interesting to follow. We can talk about load and growth of this state. I mean, clearly over the years, we've visited about the extraordinary successes of the oil and gas industry in the Permian Basin, the Delaware Basin further west, but it also presents challenges because you have remote locations. Most of those remote locations are run on methane gas. It creates environmental issues. Everybody would like to transition from methane production, use in those compressor stations, and convert it to distributed electricity. But in order to do that, you've got to have access to electricity
and generate the power and get it to it.
Exactly. And so we have seen the need, and what kind of started this latest effort to address that need occurred a couple of sessions ago, where we need to build more transmission in this state. I was actually around when we initially funded the CREZ program, building transmission lines through West Texas and North Texas. I can remember, it's one of those things, I'm a freshman, but I'm in David Swinford's office, a former Amarillo.
I know David. I knew him when he just ran an elevator in Dumas, Texas.
Really? Well, great guy. But I'm sitting in his office at a table, and he's got a map spread out, and I'm just a freshman. He says, I drew this line's going to go through your part of the country and on up into the Panhandle and going out west. And after he made his spiel, I said, well, let me get this straight, David. I said, you want me to support a program that's going to spend $8 billion building transmission lines to a part of the state that has no generative capacity? There was not a single generator at the end of those lines that would have put electricity on them. I knew of one proposed plant. Tenaska was going to build a clean coal plant in Sweetwater, and I was trying to find water for it. But that's the only power generation that was a possibility there. He looked at me, it's the first time I'd heard this term. He said, Drew, if we build it, they will come. Well, Karr, they came. They came in extraordinary numbers. They came with extraordinary numbers to where those transmission lines, even though they're less than 20 years old, they don't have the capacity to bring all that power back. They have been so hugely successful that we have congestion. And what people don't understand is there's so much generative capacity trying to get on the line that ERCOT has to put constraints on that line and say, no, you can't give us 100%. We're going to cut everybody back 85%. Well, what happens when you have a constraint, the generators are 15% less efficient, and consumers on the other side of the constraint pay more for their electricity. Those costs currently are about $2 billion a year. $2 billion is what consumers are paying and producers are paying the cost of congestion. And so there's no question in my mind we need to build more transmission capability. The question has always been siting. Where do you put it? I want to insist, and I've written letters till I'm blue in the face about trying to make sure that those lines go along existing infrastructure, whether they be highways, interstates, existing 345 kV lines and other things. Keep them out of the river basins. I don't want to. I've spent a lot of time this past session trying to get infrastructure out of a flooding river basin. I don't want to put more infrastructure in that. So that's really something we're going to have to work on, and we're going to have to work on now that we will have the capability of additional transmission. Keep in mind, transmission goes both ways. Not only can you support electricity going west, as we build these proposed large gas-fired facilities in the Delaware Basin, we'll be able to transport that electricity back to the load growth. And so we passed SB 6, which puts some process and constraints on large loads. The PUC is in the process of promulgating rules for that. We're seeing that play out, and so I'm going to be keenly interested in making sure that those rules make sense and that the cost of added infrastructure is borne by the people, these large load companies. We do not want existing industrial users and oil and gas operators and residents to pay for any incremental cost increase associated with these large loads. We put that in a bill. We're going to make sure it stays, the spirit of that stays as we move forward in the next session.
In terms of direct oil and gas implications for the session, again, I know you spent some time and are about to spend some more on interim hearings, produced water, electrification. My goodness, last session, we and our members in the oil and gas industry spent a lot of time on inactive wells, on wildfires, never mind oil field theft. It was an interesting, challenging, I don't know if we have a session that's not interesting and challenging, but how do you view the progress in those
Well, of course,
areas?
in addition to serving on the Energy Resources Committee, I'm also on the State Affairs Committee, led by Chairman King. And of course, he resides in an area that suffered greatly through wildfires. And so it was a top priority for him that we look at some of the reasons why those fires continue to be a plague and a problem in that region. One of the reasons was because you had oil and gas operators that had abandoned their facilities, and they still had electrical service to the remote side and had fallen into disrepair, and then something happens and the spark is emitted and the fire is started. And so we made great progress, I believe, in identifying poles that needed to be replaced by these co-ops, and railroad commission inspections to make sure that if that well is inactive, no longer capable of production, that all the electrical equipment is taken off. It's going to be interesting to see how that's worked out. We have seen not as many large fires in the Panhandle this year. That may be because of the climate or other reasons, but I'd like to think part of the work we did kind of helped that. You mentioned abandoned wells, inactive wells.
I mentioned inactive
I mean,
wells.
that is I have found in politics, that's kind of a third rail when you start talking about some of that, because I will tell you that we have tried to balance. We spent a lot of time last session working with your group and other producers, along with landowners, along with other stakeholders in this process to try to come up with a plan to change that dynamic. When you have 240,000 active wells in this state, every one of those is valuable to me. It's valuable to you guys.
Yes, indeed.
If they are capable of producing any oil or gas, then they need to be allowed to do that. It maintains a tax base for local taxpayers. It maintains a base for operations for the operators. It maintains, however small, revenue source for royalty owners. So, and the truth of the matter is, once that well is plugged, whatever's down hole is lost forever. And so it does nobody any real good to plug it if it's capable of production. What some of the problems associated with this issue is some current business models simply allow to what I would characterize as pass the trash. You just simply keep transferring operational interest in those wells to entities that are less and less capable of either spending the money to refurbish the well or to ultimately plug them. And so we implemented some rules in place. We put some distant time frames in that. Nothing's real immediate on any of this. We actually put the implementation date to 27. Well,
yes,
I didn't. I can recall very few times we've done that where we put the implementation date that far out. But we did so because we wanted to take a look.
Well,
Where are we in this thing? Let's get feedback from you guys and others, and how's it impacting your industry and your business model? And then hopefully in the next session we can address some of these issues.
well, yeah, a couple of moving that back to 2027 and then moving that original time frame from 10 to 15 years. That did give us a little bit of a runway to assess what this looks like. If you got what we don't want is for guys to be spending so much money on that they're not developing new resources, drill a well. So again, challenges that come from going from 1 million barrels to 6 million barrels and adding a huge number of wells to the state's inventory. So we understand all of that, and you understand we have to stand up and say, let's think about that.
Well, you've got landowners. I mean, you've got these zombie wells that crop up after years of having been plugged, and they become water geysers. You know, I think there are aspects of this that just everybody agrees it's not satisfactory. When you've got, and I don't know the exact number right now, but there's probably 150,000 orphan or inactive wells here in this state right now, I would think. Whenever I look at the list, the number keeps growing. I put millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, yes, generated by the oil and gas industry. The revenue associated with plugging these abandoned wells has been generated by the oil and gas industry. The truth of the matter is the oil and gas industry pays a lot of money.
That's right.
For programs such as well plugging. We need to make sure we have smart ways to incentivize financially credible operators to, when they are considering investment, that they consider not only the cost to acquire the property, but the ultimate cost to operate it, the ultimate cost to refurbish the wells, and the ultimate cost of plugging the wells when they're through with it. And so, you know, I don't know what we're going to do with regard to kind of this ongoing liability. Right now, the business model is you just sell it to an entity, and it just kind of cuts off responsibility. Right. But so we're going to be taking a look at that. We welcome the Alliance and your input. into that.
Yeah, we're thinking about some innovative possibilities that can be developed in the marketplace out there to kind of cover this from an insurance or surety standpoint. We'll be coming to you with some thoughts on this because it's crying out for a solution. I knew our conversation was going to fly by just like that, and they've already given me the wrap. But I want to take the president's prerogative and just touch on a couple other things.
But you're the boss.
That's what I am. Now, they'll tell me what to do afterwards, but in theory, yes, I'm the boss. Couple of issues. Prior to this last session, you had at least one interim hearing on, I think you called it federal incompetency, but we had something.
I mean, where do you stop? Where do you start in that discussion?
Isn't that true? Well, so landscape's changed a bit. And I guess from that standpoint and from a market disruption standpoint of what's going on this year, how do these external events that generate outside the state of Texas affect what we do here? Clearly, legislature pays some attention to them because you're holding hearings on them.
Well, we are subject to the same vagrancies as everyone on these federal issues and the changing policy decisions, the stop and goes, if you will, the decisions that affect our daily lives, whether it be immigration policies, whether it be fiscal policies or trade policies or tariffs or anything, all of that directly.
Oh boy, we were talking, I mean, we spent a lot of time talking just about EPA and on an LNG export permit ban. I mean, things that hit us directly, and then on to the things you were just mentioning.
Well, I think we've gotten primacy on geothermal too, and I think that's critically important. Yeah, I mean, we're all interconnected. It used to be kind of they did their thing. You know, we send them taxes. They sometimes send part of it back, you know. But now it's just so interwoven. There's not a hiccup made, you know, in Washington that's not felt here in Texas and likewise. So we're globally connected by that. Yes. Computer and internet you've got before you, and our phones that we carry with us everywhere. You know, I get this question a lot where people live in cities, and I tell them, I said, well, last time I checked, they don't grow beef cattle in the back of the HEB in San Antonio, nor do they grow cotton in the back of the Men's Warehouse in Dallas, Texas. They do all that in rural Texas. We provide the food, fiber, hide, hair, oil and gas, electricity generating, all for people to live in the cities. And all we ask is that a small portion remain in that area to provide us good jobs, to provide us a quality public education, to provide us quality health care, and provide good roads and an opportunity to live and work in the greatest part of this state, so in rural Texas. So I think by working together, we're able to hopefully get everybody what they need to live where they want to.
Well, we could do this for another several hours, and we don't have time for that. You don't have time for that, which just means we'll have to do it again sometime. But
I'm welcome. I'm ready.
Grateful for your time today, and appreciate you very much joining us on this edition of the Upstream Downlow.
Absolutely.